What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Scotty Talks NBA. As you can see, I am your host, Scotty. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you want to call them, whichever social media platform you prefer. You can find me at Scotty Drown. That's going to be my handle everywhere. If you're not already subscribed to the channel here, subscribe for all the NBA content that you can get. I'm definitely about to pick up some steam in the second half of this NBA season and really start getting the content out to you consistently. But nonetheless, happy to be here after the All-Star break. Tonight, Thursday night, we got some action kicking off. It's the first action since the All-Star break. In this episode, we're going to go over the All-Star weekend, of course. I'm going to briefly touch on that because let's be honest, we don't need to talk about it as much as it's been talked about because it wasn't worth the time that it takes to talk about it. Like, it wasn't worth me even tuning in. I did tune in for a large portion of the All-Star weekend because Tyrese Maxey was there competing in some different skills challenges, the skills competition to be specific there. So I tuned in on Saturday to watch him there, watch slam dunk contest, watch three-point contest, watch the game on Sunday to see Maxey in his first action at the All-Star game during All-Star weekend. And yeah, I can't say I was disappointed because I don't expect much from the All-Star weekend. But that being said, it still is embarrassing. It's an embarrassing display for the NBA. But we'll touch on that briefly. I already touched on most of it there, but I'll touch on a few changes I would like to see with it as well. Aside from that, I'm just going to talk about a few talking points, literally talking points for the second half of the NBA season. So there's a few things, caveats around the league that I'm looking at and wondering what's going to happen here. So I'm going to point out one to three of those. Got a few of those listed here. Then we're going to finish out the show with Eastern Conference predictions, Western Conference predictions, as far as seeding, how I think the last part of this season will play out. From there, we'll end it with the MVP standings, who I think will end up with the best opportunity to win the NBA MVP this season. And we do have some action tonight, so I'll give you my game picks. Obviously, don't put your money on them. We're just here to have fun. So let's get started here, man. Start at the All-Star weekend at the top, like I mentioned earlier. So first of all, it was embarrassing. Let's get that out in the forefront here. That's the first thing I have written down here. It's embarrassing, not only the display that's put on at the All-Star weekend, but it's also embarrassing that, some of the things you heard afterwards, specifically from Ant Edwards saying it's a break for them. They're not going to go out there and compete hard, like blah, blah, blah. That's perfectly fine, right? You get the break Sunday through Thursday, right? Their first game since Sunday is today. So they got, a 3 to 4 day break, 3.5 day break from basketball in the middle of the season. Fine, right? There's your break that you're speaking on. We're not asking you to go out in the All-Star game and compete at 100% level. I'm not even asking you to go out there and compete at like a 90 to 95% level. I'm not asking that. I'm asking for like 80%, 80 to 85%, not just settling for threes the entire game, not taking pride or dignity in what your skill set is or what you do or the ways you impact the game. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for some dignity out of guys. It's not about, competing at 100% level the entire game. It's about moments in the game where you have somebody like a Dame Lillard splash a three in Paul George's mouth. There's history there, right, of Paul George getting a game winner splash in his mouth when Dame was in Portland. You have no rebuttal for that, Paul George. You don't have the want to go out and strap him up after that occurrence in the game. That's just one example. I'm not picking on Paul George because it goes for everybody that is there. But that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for even like a percentage effort level. I'm just asking for moments in the game where you guys take it serious. That's it. But instead you have, guys like Luka, Jokic, they don't take it serious at all. I can't blame them because they're not American. NBA, that's an American sport, right? Basketball is not an American sport, right? I'm not saying that. NBA is an American league. That's a better way to phrase that. And with that being said, Jokic and Luka can't come into the NBA and set an example for culture or effort or how things are supposed to be in the NBA. It's the players right here that have been here, like LeBron, right? Like Steph. These are the guys that have to set the culture, set the tone on All-Star Weekend, and they're simply not, right? They're not. And then you see LeBron's out for the game tonight for the Lakers. It's like, well, what the hell were you doing at All-Star Weekend? How are you out tonight for the Lakers? You've had this long break. You played in the All-Star game, but you didn't really do anything. It's not adding up, right? And I'm not going at LeBron James here. It's just, once again, another example of, oh, you need a break. Well, it didn't make a difference, and you still attended All-Star Weekend. So it's a big, it's a big issue within the NBA. I don't know how big the issue is, grand scheme. There's some people that compare All-Star Weekend to the NFL Super Bowl. That's the event where the NBA is put on the forefront. They have, performances, which that's another thing, man. Like, just away from the product on the court, get some goddamn performances. I mean, the Super Bowl has a fucking lit halftime show. You had Usher this year, right? What do you get out of the NBA, man? Jelly Roll or I think there was like a Lil Wayne concert that wasn't even aired on TV. Whatever the case may be, liven it up a bit, right? Get an artist out here to perform at halftime of the game or something. Get some more eyes on the game. But in order to do that, until you would want to do that, you need to improve the product. And I would start with performances. I would start with the level of competitiveness on the court when they're doing these different skills challenges, and even the All-Star game. The other thing I would say, man, the slam dunk contest, congratulations to Mac McClung, man. The dude is phenomenal. G League player, of course, but nonetheless a phenomenal dunker, and he deserved to win this dunk competition because, my God, Jaylen Brown sucked. I mean, his dunk sucked. Kudos to Jaylen Brown. I do want to put that at the forefront. Kudos to him for stepping in and actually competing in the dunk contest, because that's what I'm about to say right now, is that the skills competitions no longer need to include people that are outside of the All-Star game, in my opinion. We are at All-Star Weekend. If you are at All-Star Weekend, you are there to see the NBA All-Stars. That doesn't mean I need to see Mac McClung winning the NBA All-Star Slam Dunk Contest back-to-back seasons. Now, you can throw blame at the league. You can throw blame at the players for not stepping up. You can throw blame for allowing Mac McClung to perform. It doesn't matter. I want the stars in the NBA to step up to the plate and compete in the skills challenges, or don't have them, right? I don't care if Mac McClung, like, congrats. It was great. I'm happy for him. I'm happy he gets that recognition. But that's embarrassing for the NBA. That's a G League player. You don't have an NBA player that can win the dunk contest. It's going to be a G League. A G Leaguer is the best dunker in the NBA. He's not even in the NBA. He's in their system. I'm kidding. He's in the G League. But, like, come on. A G Leaguer is the best dunker in the NBA. That's embarrassing in itself. Don't even have the competition. Stop. The only competition that I can honestly argue for, the skills competition's all right, even though they cheated for Team Indiana. I wanted to point that out. Skills competition's all right. 3-point contest is legit. Love that. I love the Sabrina versus Steph matchup with the 3-point contest as well. Love that addition. Keep it there. That's it, right? And then if you want to get for real, have some 3-on-3 tournaments with all-stars only. All-stars only. They pick their own team of threes. It goes by voting who gets to pick their own teams. The top voters don't get to be on the same teams, whatever the case may be. 3-on-3 tournament with NBA All-Star Edition. That's some stuff I'm trying to see. Horse with NBA All-Stars competing against each other. You can do dunks in horse. Make the guy do the same dunk as you. That's the type of stuff I want to see. If Steph is in a game of horse, make somebody make a 3 from half court. Then you have all the reason in the world to shoot it from half court or from 75 feet like Luka. These are the things that you can do to fix the competitiveness while also not having these guys going out and breaking each other's necks and ankles and legs and shit. It doesn't need to be that. Nobody's asking for that. But it is embarrassing. I will say it's embarrassing when you guys are asking for a break, considering you guys, you had to have a rule implemented of a 65-game mandate to force you to play in a majority of the regular season games. Like, you had to have a mandate of games played for you to, like, feel the need to play in these games. So, like, asking for a break at All-Star Weekend, man, you get a break, what? When does the NBA season end? June? Like, mid-June? You get a break until October, my dudes. Like, nobody else, like, okay, teachers, sure. They get the summer off. I don't even know that all school systems do that around America anymore. I know some don't. So some teachers, some professors out there get summers off. Some don't, right? I don't get the summer off from my job, but NBA players do. But they need a break mid-season. Well, where's my break mid-season? I guess it's PTO, same thing. But nonetheless, they use up all their PTO over the summer. And that's my point, man. You're asking for breaks. You're making millions of dollars. It's not asking a lot to just go out there and perform at like 75% level. Some other ways you can fix the actual All-Star game. Remove the 3-point line. That was Kyle Neubeck, a Sixers beat reporter, that put that out there. I think that's a good idea. Guys just settle for threes the entire game, which makes sense. It's where the game's going kind of holistically, even in competitive level play. The 3-point shot is just becoming so valued across the league, and it makes sense. It's the efficient way of scoring more points. I mean, 3 is better than 2, and that's the truth. So remove the 3-point line in the All-Star game. I think you'll get a little bit more competitiveness. Guys more reluctant, I would say, to just settle for 3. The second one, this is my idea, though. Well, let me give you the other idea. This is somebody else's. I don't know who to give credit to this, but I've seen multiple people say it. Winner of the game, so East-West, winner of the game gets home court advantage in the NBA Finals. I think that's kind of a good idea. There is room there where a team like the Warriors, Steph, they're not going to be in the finals. I mean, clue into later segment in the show, the Warriors are not going to be in the finals. So does it really matter to a team like that? And maybe Steph's not the greatest example because the Warriors obviously have been in the finals several times in the last decade, right? So maybe it's not the best example, but my point is guys that are not competing for a championship or to get to the finals, does that matter to them? So don't know if that fixes it. The last option that I would lay out here, this is my suggestion. Don't have the game. Don't have the All-Star game. That's my suggestion. Just have a ceremony. You know, kind of like the NFL awards, right? You just have a ceremony, give the awards out. You award the guys for making the All-Star team. It goes in. You can notch it on their, their accolade, their resume, whatever you want to call that. And just leave it at that because nothing is being accomplished in these All-Star games anyways. These guys like Dame go out and put up 50, shooting like 23 pointers in the game. It's just like, what is the point of it? You're right. Don't hurt yourself and don't waste our time. Just do a ceremony. Let them be named All-Stars for the year, and that can be that, right? So that's all the time I'm going to spend on the All-Star weekend. Actually would have liked to have spent less time on it, but it did actually bother me a good bit having to actually watch it this year. But let's get into things to look for in the second half of the season. I know there's roughly 27 to 30 games left for each team, depending how many they played out of the 82 before the All-Star break. So not technically a second half, right? It's more of like a final third of the season in reality. But some things I'm looking at here. I mentioned the Warriors, right? Are the Lakers and the Warriors cooked? They are currently the 10th and 9th seed in the Western Conference. The Warriors being the 10th, Lakers being the 9th. Warriors are 27 and 26. Lakers are 30 and 26. Currently, the Lakers are 2 games back of the Sacramento Kings for the 8th seed. You have the Warriors who are 3.5 games back of the 8th seed. And then, of course, you got them 4 games back of the 7th seed. In order to get out of the play-in tournament, to be specific here, you got to get to the 6th seed. The Warriors are 5 games back of the 6th seed. The LA Lakers are 3.5 games back of the 6th seed to get out of the play-in tournament. My question to you guys out there, share it in the comments here. Are the Warriors and the Lakers cooked? We've obviously seen these teams over the last few years have some success the Lakers winning the championship in the bubble, the Warriors winning the championship just a few years ago, bouncing back. Are these teams cooked? There's a lot of talk of LeBron trades at the trade deadline. There was even talks of Steph Curry, and it was very minuscule, right? Nothing really going to happen there. But is time running out in Golden State? You have Klay being benched for a rookie to come up into the starting lineup. Is time running out for these teams? You have LeBron getting older. He's talking about retirement at the All-Star break. I'm interested to see how this plays out, man, because there is a ton of talent ahead of them right now in the Western Conference. You talk about the Kings, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, the Suns, the Nuggets. I mean, all of those teams you can argue have more of an argument to make the playoffs and that they would be more effective in the playoffs. The only argument for these other two teams here, the Lakers and the Warriors, is Steph Curry and LeBron James, right? Like that's what you're looking at, and you're saying, well, anytime you have those guys on your team, you're going to have a chance once you get to the postseason. And I think that's something that these teams can hang their hats on. But are they going to be able to win enough games in the final third of the season, I should say here, to ultimately make the postseason and maybe not make the play-in tournament, right? Because do I see the Utah Jazz overtaking like the Warriors or the Lakers? No. Right? The Jazz are 2.5 games back from the Warriors. The Rockets are 3.5 games back from the Warriors. So do I see any of those teams coming up and giving, the Warriors, Lakers a run for their money? Utah could for a play-in spot. But ultimately, I do think these teams will make the play-in tournament. It's just if they have to match up. Right now, it would be what? The Dallas Mavericks versus the Golden State Warriors, the 7 versus 10. I would take the Mavericks in that game. You have the Sacramento Kings and the LA Lakers. That one's a lot closer, I would say. Sacramento Kings, a younger team. Are the Lakers going to be healthy? What's LeBron going to look like at that time? Will they be able to turn it on at some point closer to the playoffs in order to be able to compete where they need to in that game? Can they take the Kings spot and get the home court advantage in that game? It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, but those are two teams I'm keeping my eye on in the Western Conference. Because it's a big deal anytime LeBron or Steph Curry are on the brink of not making the postseason. So I'll keep my eyes glued there. The next one, will the Milwaukee Bucks turn it around? And turn it around, paraphrasing here, right? When you say turn it around, be the team that they're supposed to be. The team that they're supposed to be with Giannis and Damian Lillard is a top 3 seed, which they are, to be fair. But they shouldn't be, 3-7 in their last 10. They've lost 2 in a row going into the All-Star break. And the bigger thing, you fired your head coach. You brought in a guy like Doc Rivers, which take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm biased. I had to experience Doc Rivers as the head coach of my favorite basketball team, and I will promise you it's not pleasant. So with all that being said, the Doc Rivers detractor, the play of late, 3-7 in their last 10, lost 2 in a row going into the break. Damian Lillard not really looking like a great fit there so far, right? He hasn't really looked like himself so far. Did they find something at All-Star Weekend? You had all those guys there at All-Star Weekend, Dame, Giannis, Doc Rivers coaching the East. So did they figure something out there? Dame obviously winning All-Star MVP in that game. Can they turn it around amongst Doc Rivers' excuses? Because they are a mess, let's be honest. Doc Rivers came out after their last loss to Memphis Grizzlies right before the All-Star break and said that he feels like half of his guys in that locker room were already in Cabo. That's a problem, right? Like, that's a problem. So can they figure it out? I do, have confidence that they will. Now, ultimately, Doc Rivers, right? He coached the Sixers. He had a talent like Joel Embiid. And when you have talent, you're going to win some games. So if he can figure out just how to let Giannis be Giannis, let Dame be Dame, they're going to win some games to keep them where they are, if not rise above the Cleveland Cavaliers by the postseason. So I do think the Bucks ultimately get it together. I don't think they were ever, too out of whack. It's just not what you want to see from a top 3 team in that respective conference. So we'll see if Doc Rivers can get that group together there, guys. Number 3, staying in the Eastern Conference here. Can the Sixers and the Knicks stay afloat amongst injuries? Now, the injuries vary for these teams. The situations vary very minimally between these teams. But right now, you have the Knicks, who are 33-22. They're the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. You currently have OG Anunoby, who is out for them. He'll be out for tonight's matchup. You have Julius Randle, who is out for the next few weeks. And you have Mitchell Robinson, who is out for the remainder of the regular season. So they're facing some injuries. They picked up some depth at the trade deadline, though. They picked up Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic, not Bogdan, Bojan. So they did pick up some depth, there at the trade deadline. Then you look at the Sixers. They're one win behind the Knicks, so a half a game back. They're 32-22, the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, Embiid is going to be out closer to the playoffs, to playoffs approaching, right? There has been the rumor from Ramona Shelburne that he could be back towards the end of the regular season to give him some time to get, back integrated with the team before the playoffs. So there is that light there at the end of the tunnel. Embiid's return to practice and whatnot. You also have DeAnthony Melton, Nicholas Batum, Robert Covington, a few other guys on the team as well that are scheduled to return soon. D-Melt out tonight. Rocco out tonight. Should get Batum back tonight. Should get Kyle Lowry newly signed there tonight as well against the New York Knicks. That being said, these two teams, are they going to be able to stay afloat? Tonight will be not a huge game, but it's going to be a nice barometer for these teams to see how they're going to be able to operate amongst all of these injuries. Behind the Knicks and the Sixers, you have the Pacers at 31-25. They are currently the 6th seed. You have the Heat and Magic at the 7 and 8 seeds at 30-25. You look at those 3 teams. What is one of those teams that I could see jumping the likes of the Sixers? The Miami Heat, obviously, they're going to turn it on at some point as we approach the postseason, and they are a team that is not dealing with lengthy injuries to significant players. I know they've gone through their fair share of injuries, but nothing serious down there in Miami. So that is the team that I could see taking that jump. Indiana, Orlando, they'll be interesting to follow throughout the rest of the season because they are younger teams, right? They're teams that have kind of just came into the spotlight. Can they stick around? Can they improve themselves? I do think the Knicks, with their injuries being less serious than the Sixers. Sixers are missing an MVP candidate, right? So the Knicks are dealing with it to a lesser extent. I do think they hold on to their spot. We'll see about the Sixers, although I do have a little bit of confidence in this group, even without Embiid. Tonight will be a big test with them squaring off with the Knicks in Philadelphia. The final thing that I'm looking at here throughout the rest of this NBA regular season, who's going to finish with that 1 seed? It's very interesting, right? Because you look from the 1 seed down to the 8 seed, which let's just stop at the 6 seed. That's the teams that I really think have a shot at the 1 seed here. You have the Pelicans at the 6 seed in the Western Conference. They're only 6 games back of the Minnesota Timberwolves. So roughly 25 to 30 plus games left in the regular season. There's a lot of room to be made, a lot of movement to be made in the latter part of the season here. But out of the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Oklahoma City Thunder, the LA Clippers, Denver Nuggets, Phoenix Suns, New Orleans Pelicans, who do you guys think is going to take away that 1 seed in the West? Do you think Minnesota is going to hold on to it with their defensive identity? I think defense wins you championships. Can that hold the 1 seed for the Minnesota Timberwolves? They're not dealing with too many injuries themselves. OKC, can they stay up there, right? This is a young team. They're kind of exceeding expectations for this season. SGA is an MVP candidate. Can they overcome the Timberwolves for the 1 seed at a very – I mean, if they do that, come on, guys. I mean, this team is something to worry about in the coming years. The LA Clippers, 36-17, a team that has been great, arguably the best team in the NBA for my money throughout the first part of this season. How healthy is Kawhi? How healthy is Paul George? How healthy can these guys stay throughout the rest of the regular season? I think they have a great shot at the 1 seed here in the West. The Denver Nuggets, they speak for themselves as defending champs. They're going to wake up at some point, put some wins together. And who knows, they could very well come away with the 1 seed again. I will say, if I'm Denver, the 1 seed's not a huge concern to me. It's not huge. Although their home court advantage is different from most NBA teams with that altitude they have there in Denver. So we'll see how much they favor the 1 seed, because I think if they won it, they could probably go out and get it here down the stretch. The Phoenix Suns, New Orleans Pelicans, I'd put them in the same boat, probably outside of my consideration for the top seed, but they could make some movement. They could move up. They're right there. Same with Dallas and Sacramento. They could make some movement as well. They're right there. Going down to the 8 seed, Sacramento Kings are only 7.5 games back of the 1 seed. Do I think they're going to get up to the 1? I doubt it. But nonetheless, these are the things that I'm looking at throughout the rest of this NBA regular season. And to kind of cap that off, I'm going to give you my predictions for the seeding for the Western Conference and the Eastern Conference at the end of the year, going into the postseason, going into the play-in tournament, I should say. So in the Western Conference, I'm going to stick with defense, and I'm going to say the Minnesota Timberwolves, healthy right now. Rudy Gobert, Cat, and Edwards. You have the Jalen McDaniels out there. Excuse me, it might be Jaden McDaniels. I might be getting those guys confused. Jalen McDaniels might be the one in Toronto that's sucking it up. But Jaden McDaniels out there in Minnesota, I believe it's Jaden. Those guys, I have them holding on to the 1 seed. And part of that is what I just hinted at a little bit ago with the Denver Nuggets, who I have at the 2 seed here. I just don't think the Denver Nuggets, coming off a championship run, I think if I was them, I would have the confidence that I can beat anyone, anywhere, at any time as the defending champs, as long as they're healthy. So I do have the Denver Nuggets coming here at number 2. Part of the reason, though, that I have the Minnesota Timberwolves at 1, I think home court advantage means more to Minnesota. They would love to keep that, I would imagine. Number 3 seed, I have the LA Clippers. I mentioned they're arguably the best team in the Western Conference or in the NBA. They just got to stay healthy, man, and I'm counting on them doing that. Kawhi Leonard, if they stay healthy, will be an MVP candidate. Number 4, I do have the Oklahoma City Thunder dropping from 2 to 4. They're young. I just expect these other teams to turn it up a notch. They have veterans that know when it's go time. If the Oklahoma City Thunder can stay in the top 3 seeds, I will be superbly impressed. I mean, that would just be incredible from a team that's young. But nonetheless, top 4 seed is an accomplishment, and that's where I have them slated to finish here. So let's take a look here. So number 5, I have the New Orleans Pelicans. So I do have them jumping the Phoenix Suns. I like their defensive identity a little bit more than the Suns. And, you know, the uncertainty around Bradley Beal, man, that was supposed to be the third wheel there with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. He goes down. Now Eric Gordon's going to be asked to do a lot more, Grayson Allen, so on and so forth. That being said, I do have the Phoenix Suns coming in. Actually, no, excuse me. I have the Dallas Mavericks getting up to the 6th seed and getting ahead of the Suns. Once again, the injuries to Phoenix worry me. The improvements Dallas made at the deadline with Gafford and PJ Washington, I love. And I do think it'll propel them to roughly a 5 or a 6 seed in the West. I love where the Mavericks are at right now. Number 7, I have the Phoenix Suns. The injury concerns. It does worry me. Kevin Durant himself, he's older in age. He's fragile. It worries me. Their depth, Bradley Beal injury, it worries me all around with that team. They just haven't been able to put it fully together there. But let's see. Let's see what happens. I have the Suns at 7. I have the Lakers getting up to the 8th seed. So I do have them overcoming the Sacramento Kings for the 8th seed in the play-in tournament. Nonetheless, they'll still play the Kings in the play-in tournament, who I have at the 9th seed. And I do have the Warriors holding on to that final play-in spot at the 10 seed. I just don't think they're going to be able to get it together enough to surpass these other teams who, in my opinion, have a much better defensive identity, which I think is very important going down into this final stretch. It'll be close between them and Sacramento, though. I will say that. Going to the Eastern Conference, we'll start up top. Boston, no-brainer. Look at their record. I don't think anybody's catching up to them. The 2 seed is 6 games back from Boston. You go down to the 8 seed, they're 13 games back. You go down to the 10th seed, they're 19 games back of Boston. I don't think anybody's going to catch Boston, barring an injury to Jason Tatum. I do not see anybody catching Boston in the East. The number 2 seed, I do have Milwaukee overcoming the Cleveland Cavaliers. Like I said, I think talent prevails, even in a situation with Doc Rivers in the regular season. I think Doc Rivers' issues, you're really, really going to see them in the postseason with this team. So that being said, I have Milwaukee getting up to the 2 seed. Cleveland Cavaliers at the 3 seed. I'm not dropping them down too far. I'm not saying that they're not going to accomplish what they're looking to accomplish this year. A 3 seed would be a great accomplishment for the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're really healthy right now. Donovan Mitchell, yes, playing at an MVP candidate level. I do like the Cavs to finish at 3, given the health concerns of the Knicks and the Sixers. That being said, Knicks coming at 4. I think they'll be able to sustain their mark there at the 4 spot in the East. I do have the Sixers at the 5 spot. Miami worries me. Miami's the team at 6. Miami's the team that I feel could jump the Sixers here from the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But as of right now, I have the Sixers finishing at the 5 seed. I think they're going to surprise some people with how they're able to stay afloat without Embiid being the MVP candidate that he is. So 5, Philly, 6, Miami. 7, I'm going with that high-octane offense, and the Pacers just hosted the All-Star Weekend. Love what Tyrese Halliburton's doing there. I want to see them in the postseason. I think they'll be fun. Number 8 seed, I have the Orlando Magic, another young, fun team. Wish they would have added some shooting at the trade deadline. I think that's going to bite them in the postseason. But nonetheless, I like them to get that 8 spot. Number 9, I have the Atlanta Hawks. And then number 10, I have the Chicago Bulls finishing out the play-in tournament there. So you'll have a matchup of Orlando and Atlanta in the play-in tournament, and then Indiana hosting Chicago Bulls. So those will be 2 interesting games for my money, honestly. I think those are two games you could see it going either way. The Eastern Conference is going to be fun this postseason outside of Boston and who they match up in the first round. I think everything else, barring, injuries, getting Embiid back for the Sixers, so on and so forth. I think we're going to have some very interesting matchups this postseason. Finally, before we get out of here, I do want to get you guys my top 5 MVP candidates to end the season. That's not right now. It's how I think it will be by the end of this season. You guys are going to hate my number 1 pick, but I just think it's ridiculous that he doesn't get a nod here. We'll talk about it. I'm going to go with an honorable mention to mention here first. Donovan Mitchell. I said it. He's an MVP candidate. He could be higher on this list for my money. But I went with him at the 6th spot or honorable mention spot. 28 points, 5 assists, 6 rebounds, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, in the 2 seed currently in the East. Even if he finishes with the 3 seed, I think he has an argument with those type of numbers. He's obviously the focal point of this Cleveland Cavaliers team, but I like Donovan Mitchell there. Number 5, I went with Luka Doncic. The worry for me with Luka, seeding. I need him to get into the top 5 seeds. If he can do that, I think he can win it, honestly, because his numbers are ridiculous. You got him at 34 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists on the season. The Mavs are currently a 7 seed. So I personally would need them to get into the top 4 to 5 seeds in the Western Conference for him to be considered. But I think if he gets there, he's going to be a favorite for it. Number 4, I have Giannis Antetokounmpo. I said I think the Bucks are going to turn it around a little bit, get the 2 seed. He's averaging 31, 11, and 6 right now. They're at the 3 seed. Obviously, perennial MVP candidate. Next guy, same thing, Nikola Jokic. The Denver Nuggets, I said I expect them to finish with the 2 seed. He's sitting at 26, 12, and 9 right now. They're at the 4 seed. He's a guy that the only thing that could really stop him is voters fatigue, right? And it's something that's happened in the past we've seen. Number 2, the guy that I want to win it the most, I want them to finish strong and him win it, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the Oklahoma City Thunder. They're currently the 2 seed. He's averaging 31, 5, and 6. I think he has a great shot at it. They just need to stay afloat in the Western Conference. Once again, if he can stay in the top 3, he can be a favorite for that award at the end of the season. Number 1, guys, I think this is so it's so crazy where his odds are at. And I get it. It's almost like it's fatigue with him as well, even though he hasn't won the award, but just fatigue with his team winning. And it's Jason Tatum, man. It's so simple to me. And it's crazy to me that he hasn't really ever been considered for this award in the past. And it's not that I'm dying for a Boston Celtic to get the MVP award, but to make things make sense, he has to be considered. And for my money, he's the number one candidate right now to finish the season as MVP. He's averaging 27, 9, and 5. And he has the best record in the Eastern Conference, but also the best record in the NBA. Now, I get it. Kristaps Porzingis, big impact. Jaylen Brown, max contract player. There's guys like that on every single team that you're going to see mentioned amongst these candidates. There's going to be another guy that's like that. Outside of maybe SGA, right? Outside of Shea. There's going to be other guys that you can mention in that conversation. So I'm not taking too much away from Tatum in that front. And they by far have the best record in the NBA. That's the big thing for me. At the end of the day, you got to give him some credit as the focal point of that team. And to that point, that's why I think he is my favorite to win the MVP award. Whether that will really happen, I don't know. I don't know if it will really happen. But it's my pick based on what I would assume the results will be at the end of the regular season here. So, once again, top 5, I have Luka at 5, Giannis at 4, Jokic at 3, SGA at 2, and Tatum at 1 for my my MVP ladder here. But guys, that's going to be it for this episode. It was nice and short. I got a lot of work to get done today, so I'm going to get back to that. It was fun shooting the shit here with you for this short period of time. I will be back next Tuesday with the regular show with my man, Zach Noble. We'll break down all the action from the weekend, talk about some of the stuff to look into from his perspective in the latter half of the NBA regular season. But once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Like the video if you enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel so you're updated. Turn the notifications on so you're updated every single time I go live on the Scotty Talks NBA channel. You can find me on all social media platforms at Scotty Drown. Be sure to give me a follow. Hit me up on there. If you ever want to connect, if you ever want to content create together, shoot the shit about the NBA, whatever it do. You just want to shoot some ideas off me. I'm always down to talk ball. So hit me up, guys. I'm an open book here. But, guys, that's going to be it for this episode of Scotty Talks NBA. Peace. Hey, and go Blue Devils, man. Shout out to my man, Mark Henry. Let me plug here. He's got him in the Final Four. That's my guy from over at the Fox Gambler. I like to tail Mark on a lot of college basketball plays. He's starting to give my Duke Blue Devils recognition. Duke is the school that I always keep tabs with in college basketball. Obviously my team, but go Blue Devils. We on the way. And Cooper Flag's coming next year, guys. You ain't going to like that. But peace, everybody. Hit that subscribe.